Hello everyone, Joy here. I'm back this week with new format video. And this week, I want to talk about something that was kind of fascinating. I had a conversation with a customer of mine yesterday. He pointed out I have a little post-it in front of the mirror wherever they sit right there. And one of the things that I wrote there is like, be humble. You know, it says like, be humble, be kind, do good work. And then because he's Korean, he was like, oh, what does humble mean? You know, they forgot. And then, I explained what humble was in Korean. And then we had this really interesting conversation about what is humbleness, what is humility. Being humble, I don't look at it the same way as, lowering yourself, right? As colored woman, a minority, maybe not even a minority in the grand scheme of the world. But, I grew up in the States. So as the minority woman, I don't think humility should have been my main lesson. World tries to humble someone like me all the time, right? And then my customer, first of all, he was saying like, oh yeah, I read somewhere that humility isn't lowering yourself, it's actually lifting others up. But you didn't even have to feel bad about yourself. You don't have to downplay your accomplishment, blah, blah, blah. And I thought that was quite brilliant, right? And for me, that's the only form of humility that I value. I've never met someone who like actively tries to humble other people. It's like, oh, she should be humble. Oh, he should be humble, blah, blah, blah. I've never known these type of people to be actually humble themselves, right? And I also noticed that sometimes when people are overly subservient, like they compliment you, but it seems very backhanded. It's like, oh, oh yeah, it's so amazing that you could study. If only I cared about that. Or if only that was valuable. Like, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I don't think being overly subservient, being like, oh, you're so great, I'm not, is a form of humility. What is it? The covert narcissism. Whenever people feel like such a victim all the time, and therefore they're special, that's also a form of like entitlement. Oh, I suffer so much, therefore everybody has to admire my strength. And it's very easy to fall into those traps. I do think that I've also been through a lot in my life, especially as when I was younger. So it's very tempting to become a victim. And I was a victim of actual crimes in the past. But it never should be an excuse to, pity yourself to a point where you expect other people to worship you for no reason. And give you excuses all the time. That's not a form of humility. Again, it's a very fine line, right? You should, admit it. If something has happened to you and you are a victim indeed, and your circumstances were hard, and, we should acknowledge it. Some people's circumstances, it is very difficult. I like to say my circumstance was difficult, but at least I had running water all the time, I had shelter for the most part. There were times where that was kind of unstable. I haven't really like starved. Maybe I was hungry sometimes, maybe food was a little bit expensive, but you know what I mean? I also had privileges. And I also had hardships. I think it's important to understand that. And coming back to that point, I think true humility is being able to understand that everybody is different and that everybody has their own set of struggles and their own set of successes and their own set of talents and their own set of right choices they have made to get to where they are today. I think everybody has their roles and everybody has to take responsibility for what they want. Like, for example, if I go on a photo shoot and I see a model, I'm not going to try to be the model when I am the beauty artist. Just as how it would be very annoying for me if my model was suddenly like, I can also do a great job with makeup. I'm better than you because it's not their role. Does that make sense? Or I will never pretend to be the actress when I'm supposed to be doing the hair and makeup. Does that make sense? Here's the thing. Anybody is capable of anything. I always say, you want to become a singer someday? Good. But it will require a certain set of steps and sacrifices to get there. Does that make sense? You want to become a YouTuber? Great. You will have to make videos on YouTube. You can't just sit in your house and do nothing to achieve your dreams. Physically nothing. And then say like, I could have done that. Maybe for guys in high school, they're like, oh, I could have been an athlete. But you're not though. And you didn't take the choices to become an athlete. Maybe you got injured, which is very sad. But you had to make the choice. Otherwise, your body wouldn't handle it. So you're not an athlete because you chose not to be one. Now, does that mean that you cannot love sports? No, of course you can. Does that mean you cannot work in the sports field? No, of course not. But you know what I mean? You have made a choice to live a certain life given the circumstances. And whether we like it or not, all of us have some form of circumstances. All of us are given circumstances and we work with it. And we make certain choices. We put ourselves in certain situations which shape who we are today. I'm a hairdresser, right? And I've spent a good chunk of my life working in this field because it was a choice that I made. You know, of course, part of me wonders what my life would have been if I just, I don't know, married into a wealthy family. If I had just became a mother. If I had just, when I say just, I don't mean it's any better good, by the way. But you know, if I had just moved abroad again and tried to work in another country. What if I had just, I don't know, worked for a corporation and became a corporate Betty? Sometimes I, in a way, even moan the life that I could have lived had I made different choices. For example, I think it's a really cool job, maybe, let's say, to become a fashion designer, you know? But would I look at a fashion designer and be like, I could have done that? No, because I didn't do it. Do you know what I mean? Maybe I could have, but I didn't. And I'm not going to. Do you know what I mean? So therefore, I can appreciate how far they have come. I can appreciate other people. Now, if I want someone to design my gown one day, for example, I will respect a designer because they have taken those steps to get there. Does that make sense? So my point is, humility is accepting that you do have agency over your own life, even with given the circumstances. And sometimes your circumstances can be, even though they seem negative on the outside, it can be a positive trait. For example, I know for a fact that some people prefer the type of people that lack a lot. For example, some guys, they actually would prefer to be with a woman that don't really have an ambition of her own, other than become a great partner. And actually, these type of guys, I've dated these type of guys before too, right? They wouldn't want a partner like me because they resent the fact that I want to be independent, and they will do everything to sabotage it because they want a partner that really need them. In that case, someone who, you know, is in a survival mode, who needs a man to save them and rescue them, to provide a completely new life for him, would be an ideal partner for him. Does that make sense? Now, the reason why I say it is because as humans, we have a lot of limited abilities. We have limited, qualities. We have limited circumstances. We have to find good matches for us. Just as how a customer is looking for that perfect salon for them. You know, maybe some customers would never come to me because they want a huge salon with lots of people, with lots of interns serving them, and that's what they're looking for. But some customers who come to me, they like that it's one-on-one. They like that it's quiet. They like that they can chat with me. Does that make sense? Just as how some people choose to watch my YouTube because of any number of reasons, and they might not watch somebody else's content even though it's like even better. But what is better? You know what I mean? It's all subjective, right? I think humility for me means me admitting that I have limited time, me admitting that I cannot be everything everywhere at the same time. So whenever I do need other people's help, I can actually respect what they bring to the table. Does that make sense? Like, for example, I just done a photo shoot earlier today. Part of me wonders, maybe I could have been a photographer because I do love photography. But I'm not gonna tell my photographer, hey, I could be a better photographer than you. Do you know what I mean? I'm so glad my photographer is a great photographer so that I can choose their services. And my role that day is just to become a customer. It's just to communicate my needs. So I think truly humble people admit their own strength. They're like, hey, I'm a pretty decent person. I've done XYZ. This is who I am. They embrace who they are fully. You're a mother, great, embrace that fully. You're a career woman, great, embrace that fully. You're an athlete, great, embrace it fully. You are in a position where you have to depend on other people, great, embrace that fully. Every situation, every circumstances, every group of people, every person that you run into have something to teach you. And you also have something to give. You also have something to contribute. You don't need to lower yourself to a point and be like, I'm worthless, I'm nothing. I've seen people like this, right? They say, oh, I'm worthless, I'm nothing, meh. And they just want everybody else to pity them and everybody else to cater to them, everybody else to meet their schedule. Don't be like that. Just admit when you have weaknesses, you have those weaknesses, and that is fine. Sometimes it's your fault, sometimes not. Who cares? Just take full responsibility for who you are. Again, I'm coming from a position of someone who's also learning to do this, right? And I also am able to admit that I'm beautiful, I am educated, I have a business, but sometimes I need help in some areas. And therefore, when I do meet people who can meet those needs where I cannot meet myself, I'm very grateful and thankful for them, and I can uplift them, and they can also uplift me because they must be making a deal with me because they like something that I bring to the table. And once you accept this form of humility, right, accepting that I'm pretty great in my own way, and therefore other people are pretty great in their own way, then you're actually able to work together. Then you're able to celebrate the differences. Then you're able to appreciate what anybody can bring to you, even though it's something small. It might not be small for you. And when you accept that you cannot be everything for everyone all the time, but you can be something for someone sometimes, that's how you can be truly humble, and that's how you can uplift other people and appreciate them. And then maybe, who knows, your appreciation will make them want to become better, even do more, even become more in the future, so they can even be more for you. So that's what I want to talk about for this week. Thank you guys so much for your patience and understanding as I'm figuring out how to create new content for this channel. If you have any suggestions, questions, or feedback, or just a little comment, whatever, feel free to leave them down below. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye. Thank you. Oh, please like and subscribe. Bye. Mwah.